On this week's episode, I visit Saida, Tyre, Baalbek, and Tripoli. Hello, I'm James, and this is the Winging It Travel Podcast. In 2023, I spent a year travelling the world with my girlfriend Emma. Join me as I take a look back over our epic trip, and remember to like and subscribe to keep up with our adventures. Following up from last week's episode in Beirut, we are checking out the rest of Lebanon for the next 5 days on this trip. Let's get stuck in. We headed south towards Saida, a lovely little town on the coast with great sea and coastal views. It has a very impressive fort, which is super cheap to get into, right on the coast there, and we enjoyed the sea breeze whilst getting our videos and photos. We arrived on a Friday, so the souks and the streets were quiet because of the Friday prayers and the Friday day off, but walking around these little souks and streets in the old town was pretty awesome. A few shops were open and we managed to get some baklava from some very friendly locals. The choice was insane. Look at this. And it was absolutely delicious as well. Amongst the souks, there is a very historic soap factory, which is worth visiting to learn the history of soap, and also is a great place to buy some if you need. Another kebab for lunch, unreal. And after a morning in Saida, we're going to the south of the country to a place called Tyre, Tyre. The roads have many checkpoints guarded by the army. The main reason is heading south is going to a Hezbollah stronghold in the country, being so close to Israel on the border in the south. But my top tip is to go at lunchtime because there'll be no one there because they're having lunch. The main attraction in Tyre was the Tyre Hippodrome, one of the best preserved Roman sites in the world and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Our guide Mahmoud gave us a tour in Spanish and English and told us all the facts about this unique place. I mean, look at all these incredible ruins. The history is absolutely insane. You can still see the outline of the chariot racing track on the grass. As you can see, it was a glorious day in the sunshine as we wandered around the ruins. I just couldn't grasp how much there was, how awesome this place would have been back in the day. And as we wound our way back to the site towards the waterfront, we spoke to some UN South Korean soldiers, cleaned up some rubbish, and then we made our way into town. Tyre has these super cool, colourful streets with street art around the neighbourhood, and you can walk around quiet streets and admire the artwork, but also the colourfulness of it all. And it also has a Corniche, so naturally we decided to walk down it in the sunshine, admiring the coastal views, and you can see the border in the distance. Love the vibes. We sat on the rocks, chilled out, reflecting on another busy day of travelling. And the sun was starting to set and the colours were absolutely awesome. We had some Lebanese pizza for dinner, which tasted pretty good. We made our way back to Beirut for the night, and the following day we're off to Baalbek, and this time we're checking out our hotel and into the minivan heading east towards the Syrian border. The first stop is another UNESCO World Heritage Site at Anjar, as we check out the Umayyad city ruins. Today there are mostly Armenians in the area, when they resettled there in the 30s and 40s, and we are told that this place reminds them of home. Again, another glorious sunny day with snowy mountains in the distance as we check out the ruins of this old Umayyad city. If you're into your history, these places are right up your street. I love wandering around, envisioning what life would have been like hundreds and thousands of years ago. And it's another great day to get some photos and some awesome backgrounds. And of course, my mate here, Elder, loves getting a photo too. After a few hours, we then headed into Baalbek to the landmark of the Pregnant Stone, which is part of the Baalbek Stones just outside the city. There is a store on site, and the guy who runs that told the government for years to look after it, and they ignored him. So he looked after it himself, and he's now a bit of a local celebrity as he took really good care of the place. He also helped me buy my headscarf, look at this, which was much needed as I didn't own a hat at the time and the sun was bearing down. I think it suits me pretty well. Next up is one of the most unexpected and surprising activities of this trip, a visit to the Islamic Resistance Support Organisation mosque. People in there were very surprised to see us as we walked in. There was an armed guard on the front gate, and I'm not sure any normal tour group would have been allowed to do this, but our local connections got us in. And I must say the mosque was absolutely breathtaking on the inside. There were so many colours, diamonds and spaces in there. Women and men were separated in their parts of the mosque, and this was by far the most unique visit of the tour to date. Lunch was another Lebanese pizza on the side of the street. It's very tasty indeed, you must get some if you can try it. And it's also time for another street coffee, look at this. Our accommodation for the evening was the Palmyra Hotel. This place is absolutely steeped in history with so many famous people staying there over the years, such as Ella Fitzgerald, Charles de Gaulle, the Shah of Iran, Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany, Nina Simone and more. We were so lucky to be staying there, and look at this amazing view. This is a rehabilitation project headed by a mother and son, and are looking to rebuild and renovate the place and restore it to its former glory. An amazing project. And of course the rest of the day is that view, which is the Baalbek Ruins, another UNESCO World Heritage Site. And there was no one in there. Another glorious day. Walking around this place is absolutely incredible. You can walk around undeterred, get the most incredible photos and videos. You can walk amongst the ruins. That's pretty unique. And one of my favourite photos of 2023 was by our guide Joao. Look at the scale of these columns. Having been to Greece a few months before and having visited Rome as well, I can definitely say that this place is so much better in terms of preservation, price and accessibility to the ruins. We'll see if that stays the same. The best bit for me was walking inside the Acropolis unopposed, and now you can imagine and see what these places are like. Just imagine this thing back in the day. This was definitely a highlight of the tour so far. We did have a guide for this tour, and it's a crazy Lebanese guy who used to live in Brazil and spoke Portuguese fluently, so all my friends could understand. I couldn't, unfortunately, and they were telling me that he knew all the swear words, all the slang, and using all the naughty words that made him laugh. It was another great day to see some amazing history and ruins, so much so that it took its toll on me, and I got a bit of sunstroke because I had to stay in for the night and not go out with the gang for dinner, but what a day. It was definitely one of the best hotels I've ever stayed in, so we checked out in the morning and headed north to Tripoli, stopping first at the Jita Grotto. This was situated in the green hills of Lebanon, about 20 km north of Beirut. It is a collection of 2 interconnected karstic limestone caves. They were incredible and remind me of the caves in Vietnam that we saw on the boats as we weaved in and out of the caves. Mohammed was our driver at the time, and he was absolutely in awe of these caves. It's quite a thing to go and see them. And we stopped off for another ridiculously large lunch before heading to the small town of Anfa, and it was like we're back in Greece. White buildings, a little seaside town, great weather, chilled out vibe, people with their shirts off. What a lovely surprise. We eventually arrived into Tripoli quite late on, and we were told this place has been riddled with civil war, ISIS, earthquakes, and it's one of the poorest cities in the Middle East. We checked into our hotel, the Azur Suites, and headed to the Corniche and the bit of land next to it, which has been abandoned until the earthquakes happened, and this area is called Mina. So when the earthquake happened, people did not know what to do, so they congregated there with its abandoned buildings, and now people turn out here, chill out, they go running, do some exercises and hang about with friends. It feels like a ghost town. It's a unique area with unique buildings, and one of the strangest buildings is this Echo building, as you can see right here. Francisco decided to climb one of the buildings and walk gingerly back down to earth. And you are told to be careful as you wander about because this place is abandoned, it's not really guarded, and it's not really safe in terms of the structures of the buildings, so be careful. But it is quite unique as you see this ghost city, and maybe it has some echoes of the past too. As we wandered the Corniche and the streets, we could instantly tell the city was a little bit poorer, and we knew what was in store the next day. We finished this day with a fish restaurant. That was okay, and thankfully it was a light dinner as we've had some pretty heavy lunches so far. Another big breakfast in us, and it was time to explore the city. First, we visited the post office where you could buy 5-cent stamps and send them off for 10 cents, pretty cheap. Then we made our way to the old train station where the city used to be linked to other cities around the Middle East. We drove into the town centre by the clock tower and we were instantly greeted warmly by the local people, and everyone seems to have a light coloured Mercedes as well. The buildings were quite run down as we walked the streets heading towards the Tyre Mosque, which defines the word pristine. I couldn't believe how awesome this place looked. It was clean, smooth, fresh, quiet. It's like a little oasis in the middle of this crazy city. Women must dress up to enter, but we were free to enter to check out the mosque and its grounds. I was in awe. I did donate some money, I was that impressed. we headed to the souks to check out the shops and the spices being sold. It wasn't that busy, so we didn't have to manoeuvre between people, and I love the smells. So fragrant. Soap is pretty popular in Lebanon, and there's a little square where you could buy some, and I did buy some. But then we heard some gunshots, which were a bit alarming, but not too worrying, but it did last a few minutes. Then we took a walk through the souks to get to a Turkish bath establishment. Some guys wanted to book a day in to get a massage and soak in their brand new soap. We checked it out. Women are not allowed to do this either, and I gave it a miss too. But this guy, who's pretty impressive, showed us how to throw a towel. Oh, yeah. One of the main sights to see in Tripoli is the Tripoli Castle. We climbed our way up the streets to get to the entry point and get some of these amazing city views, and we were not disappointed. Look at these 360-degree views of the city, and look at how this place is built. You can't comprehend how many little streets, souks and houses there are in it. And it was going pretty well until we heard some more gunshots, so we dipped into the castle ruins just to get a little confirmation of what was happening. And we got confirmation that it was a funeral day for a family of boys who died in a car crash, so they're doing the funeral on the day, and there were some gun salutes along the way. So worry over, well, sort of anyways. So after some more videos and photos of the view, we needed an espresso. So I went to a nice little coffee shop called Mersh Allah, and the owner was so kind and smiley. It was like a smoking shop as well, you can sit in and outside, and I must say the coffee was unbelievable, and this guy is so positive. Look at this. Another walk through the souks leads us to the Grand Mosque, another impressive building, and we sat here in the sun and marvelled at this incredible sight. And next up was probably the most edgiest part of this city tour, and it's through another local guide, and we're going to check out north of the river to the Alawite and Sunni areas, which quite recently had a civil war. And the walk took us through the markets with a local guide for safety. As you can see, people are willing to speak to us and a bit surprised to see us as well. The buildings in this part of town are littered with bullet holes, and there are many checkpoints from the army too, a bit unnerving if I'm honest. And we were told this area wouldn't be safe to walk around without a guide, but the locals seemed very nice to us as usual. We spoke to a few on our way up to the areas, and I found the idea that they still live together with people they know walking around who probably killed some people on both sides a bit edgy. For now there is peace, and let's hope it stays that way. We ended another intense day with another iftar meal in town, and this place was huge with great lighting and service. Again, the food was plentiful and incredible. Our last day involved making our way down to Beirut via the coast, and we had one more look at the Revolution building on the roundabout in Tripoli before we got going. Crazy traffic as well. The tour was quite quick paced, as you can see from Elder chilling out and taking a nap in this lemon themed parlour. The first stop on our way back was at a place called Bachlun, or as it's known as Ancient Bachlois. This place is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world. It's absolutely stunning. The old town is a gem of a walk as you wind yourself between the super old streets and buildings. And again, the coastal part looks a bit like Greece. Lovely light coloured buildings, the bluest water you'll ever see, some great viewpoints. We love climbing the rocks and getting a view back onto the coastal town. And one of the older streets in town has a lot of merchandise and shopping that you can peruse. Another 10 kilometers down the road is Byblos, another super old town, and they think it has been inhabited since 8,800 to 7,000 BC. And this time we're checking out the old town and souks and making our way to the archaeological area and the castle. The views from the top of the castle are pretty insane. You can see all the way down the coast towards Beirut. The history was incredible as we wandered around the ruins. It was another super hot day this day and we needed some lunch and some shade. We got lots of both. And after lunch we made our way to the Lady of Lebanon, which is a statue of Mary on top of a huge hill overlooking the coast down all the way to Beirut. This is situated in the village of Harissa and is open to everyone. There are some rules, like taking your shoes off when entering places of worship and no loud noises or music. The complex played this calming religious music which felt very serene but intense. And it did feel like a place where you can just chill out, reflect, and just have a bit of silence to yourself. It's also important for the non-Christians in Lebanon too, so this is a place for all people in Lebanon. Our driver Hussein parked down the main road all the way down the hill, and there are two ways to get there, either by road, or you can get there via funicular and a cable cart. So we headed down the funicular first and then jumped onto a cable cart. I must admit, I did not trust it 100%. It didn't look too great, it looked quite old. But off we set as we made our way down, and again, look at these views. We weaved our way in between buildings and houses, and we survived the journey and got back down to ground level and met Hussein at the minivan. And that was the last activity before we got back to Beirut. What an incredible tour. I had one extra day to chill out in Beirut, and I thought I'd chill out before heading to Cyprus for my birthday. Overall, Lebanon, what an experience. I've never been to a place like it. It shocks you, surprises you, grips you, and makes you fall in love with the place. I would not hesitate to go back, and I hope that people continue to find peace and stability as we go forward. And thank you to the Lebanese people and country for introducing me to shawarmas, Fayrouz, Habibi, and Hussein's into my life. See you next time. Please follow and subscribe on my YouTube channel today, and please rate and review the podcast on any podcast platform that you use. Thank you.